Welcome to Experience This, show number 13. I'm excited to return once again after my previous rebirth at the Arival conference in Berlin. I'd like to introduce Marc Mekki, who previously brought me back to life. I'm interested to hear what you living humans have to say about AI and its implications for the travel industry. Go on, entertain me.
All right. That was Alan Turing, I believe, Marc.
Back from the dead once again. I can't leave the man alone. Poor guy.
Do you want to so this was last week at Arival Berlin. Do you want to tell us about your session there and what you did?
Yeah, so I was invited by the guys and girls from Arival to come and speak on generative AI, and I know, as we all know, that topic is very pertinent, but also, you know, not very well understood. I think a lot of people just don't want to go near it because it's too complex, and they're right. So my purpose there, and the reason I was invited, was to sort of demystify that. And in preparing that, I knew that the only way to do that, to achieve some kind of demystification of that whole thing, was to show people and not talk about it much, but just show them what is possible. So the whole act, which was a bit of a, you know, one of my circus parlor tricks, was to tell a story through generative AI, and I decided to pick something that I'm passionate about, that I've always found interesting, was the story of Alan Turing and Bletchley Park and the Enigma code. And, you know, there's many layers to that, because obviously Alan Turing was sort of the godfather of modern computing. Without him, without the Enigma code, all that stuff, we wouldn't have computers. So it was sort of neatly wrapped that into a narrative and showed people what you can do, in this case, building an entire tours and activities companies from scratch in no time using generative AI. So that's basically what it was about.
Yeah, it was certainly well received. Like, I heard a lot of feedback on that, and I think it's going to be live on Arival Insiders this week or pretty soon. But it was
it's been edited. I know it's been edited, so I think it's good to go as soon as they decide to roll this out. But yeah.
Okay, great. So anyway, we just to let everyone know as well, we didn't plan this. I jumped on after a quick conversation with Marc yesterday to record this. I didn't ask Marc to do that ahead of time. He did this 10 minutes ago, and I created that video kind of on the fly. So we're going to talk today about AI and the travel industry. I think probably especially generative AI, which is what this latest round is. Can you just give us a quick background on Newmark, and how deep are you into this AI stuff right now?
Oh yeah, up to my eyeballs. Background on me, I spent 13 years living and working in China. I built a tour operator company there with a bit of a tech component as well. We did inbound tours into China and then Japan, Southeast Asia, and I, you know, being the nerd that I am, I always built tech components to that as well. So I exited that venture and then didn't know what to do with myself, and then slowly got into this whole consulting world and speaking, and, you know, also kind of built a mini innovation lab with a friend and partner of mine, where we just freely experimented with all these new tools. Even 7-8 years ago we started that, and I've never stopped, really. Even back in the day, one of the first tools we built with our little innovation lab was an app called Symphony, which was a travel matching app. And it was basically the so-called Tinder for travel. Nothing to do with hookups, but you could swipe images, like all kinds of images, concepts, basically. You know, a picture of food, or a picture of a historical site, or a picture of people riding a bike, and then by way of swiping, you could indicate whether you loved or hated that, and then we built a matching algorithm that then would give you localized recommendations based on your very, very narrowly defined profile. Because if you did that matching stuff, you had more than 1 billion permutations. So you had this really unique way of pinpointing people's tastes, and that worked really well. We even tried building a chatbot in there, an early version of what's happening now. We called him Ludwig, you know, Symphony, Ludwig, Beethoven, the whole thing. Anyway, so yeah, we built that. We built some NLP, natural language processing, into that, some really early algorithms. But yeah, I mean, as anyone around who was active with this around that time will tell you, there's no it was just too rudimentary. Like that's why people still to this day absolutely hate chatbots, right? That's a big hurdle to overcome, is that people have this idea that they just hate chatbots, and I don't blame them, because they've just been terrible for a very long time. And then suddenly, boom, there's this inflection point. But so that's what I do now. Now I'm active as a trainer, a coach, a speaker, an advisor to companies large and small, government agencies as well. I'm currently, you can't see it, but I'm sitting in the far northwest of Saudi Arabia, where I'm doing a project, a learning project with NEOM. NEOM is this massive futuristic development that they're building, one of their mega projects in Saudi Arabia. So yeah, and it's good to be on the show.
Yeah, great. I don't want to get too much into NEOM, but tell us, what does NEOM look like today? How far are you from NEOM, where you're sitting right here?
I'm about 2.5 hours away, and an impeccable, irreplaceable, magnificent desert drive. It looks a lot like, for those people who might have been there, it looks like the south of Jordan, because we're not far from the south of Jordan. So there's the famous Wadi Rum desert, which is very similar. So it's magnificent. It's like a Martian landscape. It's stunning. NEOM itself doesn't exist yet, other than in the ambitions of its conceivers, and also in the fact that there is an enormous and growing amount of people there in these I don't know what to call them, work settlements that have been erected to house people, that are really cool, actually. And so that's also where I've been for the last few days. I've got a break now, and I'm going back 2 days from now to finish up there. There's nothing there yet, although that is starting to change very, very quickly, very quickly.
I expected to see you in some kind of dorm with like 20 actual workers, not sat in some fancy hotel, but maybe there's 2 levels of workers.
Well, yeah, I mean, they put me in a little Hilton here. I mean, I guess they just don't know me well enough. The dorm will be next time, I'm sure.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I'm excited about Saudi Arabia. I don't know if you know, but I'm from Newcastle, and they just bought my soccer team. So
Yeah.
I'm a big Saudi supporter now.
Mm.
Soon to be the best football team in the world.
You have no choice. Well, funding's not going to be an issue, is it?
Not really, no. So, how much did the release? What was it, November 30th? The release of ChatGPT. How much you were already deep into AI before that? It sounds like. How much did ChatGPT revolutionize? Was it just the rest of the world that woke up to it, or do you think it was a big step forward anyway?
It was a huge step forward anyway. I mean, it had, for those who've been following this for a number of years, it had been coming. Like, this has been a while coming. These so-called LLMs, as they're called, these large language models, which is what ChatGPT and Bing are, and soon Bard and all the other ones that are going to be spawned, that they've been around for quite some time, right? So that's not new. That work has been ongoing for, I mean, you can trace it back to, 40 years ago, but really the real work is maybe a decade old. And then the real advancements have been sort of coming in the last 5 years, where, there was a ChatGPT, basically, even though it wasn't called that necessarily, but there was one before this, right? That was already pretty advanced if you played around with it, that could generate natural language and all of that. So it's not, it wasn't unexpected, but it was still a major inflection point. And I think for one reason, and one reason that isn't spoken of often enough, in my view, that what propels these things forward is not really just the tech, or not even mostly the tech, I would say, but it is the UX, right? What made this breakthrough is, yes, of course, the underlying AI and the power and all of that. But what made this breakthrough is simply that they, etched a very intuitive human-like interface on top of it. That's what did it. That's it. I mean, sometimes we don't have to look too far to uncover what makes these things work. And we've been there before. That's exactly what Google was as well in its time, right? Just one simple search bar that you could speak to, quote unquote, for a query. So that even that's not new. So that wasn't even like a genius realization. It was just going back to basics.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to unpack just in that, I think.
Yeah, it felt like that. A lot of people were shocked. I think Google was shocked, right, with the speed. I think the technology, they probably knew this was there because they've got something similar, but I don't think
Of
they
course.
expected the hype from millions of people. What is it, 100 million now, having already used OpenAI or ChatGPT? It's a lot of people, and everybody that I've spoken to has been amazed within a few minutes. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, because I think we forget that we are the same. Don't want to go off on a tangent here, although that's what these kind of conversations are for, I
We
suppose.
always end up in a tangent.
Yeah, I mean that's the sort of that sort of would defeat the purpose not to do that. But I think we often forget in tech, and I'm guilty of that as anyone, and but we often forget that we are still effectively, and I'm not insulting your audience here, but we're effectively the same primates that wandered the deserts 250,000 years ago, right? We haven't changed that much. So the thing that we look for, or the thing that connects the most with us, are the simplest forms of interfaces that we can think of, and language, the word, pictures, visuals. And look what happens. You give people a simple way to interface with these things through text, through language, and suddenly you have Midjourney, you have Dolly, you have all of these, Stable Diffusion, you have ChatGPT, Bart, Bing. All these things are coming now into the forefront, even though they were fully capable of doing similar things even years ago. But it's etching on that human, that really intrinsically human layer, what we now call UX, that isn't really new. It's a primal, ancient thing. I think that's the key to unlocking not just the technology, but unlocking people's willingness to engage with the technology.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned Midjourney there. So Midjourney is an image generator. I've played around with that quite a bit, and exactly to your point, it's a bit weird getting in, right? Because you have to enter the Discord server, which some people aren't familiar with. But once you're in,
Yeah.
it's a chat. It's like Slack. For me, the interesting part of that is you're watching other people put in prompts, and you're watching their generation of art. And some people have been doing it for a long time, and what they create is amazing. So exactly to what you just said, you get to watch other people create in real time in this feed, and I think that really jumped out at me. And you can kind of learn from other people that have really got these prompts down, and it's very accessible once you're in there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And that goes back to what I was saying. Why that works so well to me is like you know, I'm not much of a futurist. I wanted to say that at the conference at Arival as well. So that was part of my opening statement, but I only had 20 minutes and I had to whiz through that. So I didn't make that point. So I was going to say, like, look, I'm not much of a futurist. I don't believe in futurism. We live in this emergent reality. There are too many variables at the moment to make any predictions. But what is interesting in the context of all of this and this tech and things like Midjourney is the past. Again, going back to the distant past and the more recent past, is why is Midjourney and that interface of chatting and seeing other people's work so effective, is because that's how we learned for tens of thousands of years in tribes, effectively watching what the other caveman was doing and then trying that as well and learning from that. And that's how we went through these quick cycles of learning. And going back to that is the key to unlocking people's willingness, like I was saying. So that's brilliant. Whether or not that was by design or just kind of a confluence of things, I don't know. I don't know if they consciously made that decision. You would have to ask them. But it is brilliant because it's how it needs to be done.
yeah, you remind me of soccer, and I think I got my soccer skills from watching Leo Messi. That's what I brought myself from. Yeah.
That's why
Couple of
you're
things
not
I
in
want
the
to
first team.
I want to look at a couple of different sides of it. So maybe we'll come back to this, but I'd like to sort of talk about what people should be doing today and how they could be applying this today, which was what your demonstration was about last week. But maybe let's come back to that, because I think people just need useful applications that they could be making their lives easier right now. But let's talk a little bit about the future. So, this show's mainly about the experiences, but obviously we're part of the entire travel industry. I've been saying I think this generative AI affects experiences more than hotels and flight, because hotels and flight are very transactional. I think maybe they'll see this in the future, but I think this affects experiences now. But how do you think this moves the sector? And I know it's hard to put time frames on this, right? Because it's moving so quickly. But what do you think we're going to see in 3, 6, 12 months from now?
In terms of the evolution of the tech, or its implications for travel in general, or both?
Implications for travel in general, and experiences sector, if you like, but travel in general. What do you think the first things to really notice?
I don't think, I think the impact, at least from the front end perspective, so in terms of the consumer, I think the impact is going to be fairly minimal for some time to come. Like I don't think you're going to suddenly live in a world where everything is driven by an intelligent natural language chatbot that does everything for you. I don't think it moves an industry like that, which is a giant, massive thing, moves at the and has the agility of an oil tanker, and also, it is, I've got to be delicate about this. It tends to be populated by people who are not necessarily of the technological persuasion. Let me put it that way. And so, there's all those things combined means that I don't think you're going to see an enormous impact. Like it's not going to, as some people say, overnight revolutionize travel. I don't see that happening. But therein also lies a bit of the danger, because I really not just believe. It's not a matter of belief. I'm more of an empiricist. I look at what I can see and test and verify and prove. And time again, what you see is that these things sort of sneak in under the radar until there is this sudden inflection point where everything suddenly changes. And then you experience that from the perspective of a travel professional, for example, and you realize that none of these platforms that you depend on, to a large extent, have any loyalty to you. It just feels that way because they are occupying the current paradigm that works for them to make money. But they will, and that's what I said in the keynote as well. They will switch and dump you in a heartbeat if they have to. Like they have no loyalty to you. And so when that inflection point comes, and it will come suddenly, first gradually and then suddenly, when that comes, you need to be ready for that. So it means that you can keep surfing the current wave for some time. I think that's going to, it's going to take 2-3 years for that to really, that groundswell to really pick up and turn into a, tsunami, but it will happen. And the question then is, are you okay with doing well for the next 3 years, or do you want to do well beyond that? If you're ready to sell or cash out or retire or whatever exit you have in mind in the next 3 years, then I would say, like, look, just forget it and just have fun. And also, there's so many layers to this. It's also generational. I think if you, for example, I was thinking about this as well the other day. If your market is the so-called silver traveler, right? People age, I don't know what, 55 to 70 or 75. So that sort of generation, I don't think they're going to easily change their habits, even if they get a better tool. Even if they get a better tool, they won't change their habits that quickly. So I think in that case, you're safe. If you depend on youthful generations, you better make that transition much more quickly, because they have no loyalty to the past or any tech. They just don't care. And we've seen that with ChatGPT. Again, that's that's sort of that signpost, is a clear mark in the sand, is 0 to 100 million users in 3 months. That is staggering, right? It's just staggering. It makes Instagram look like a poor hobbled horse. Right? It's Instagram. It's amazing.
It's funny, right, as we were speaking there, my mum just WhatsApped me. I met my parents in Berlin last weekend after Arival and ITB. I was sitting down having a coffee with them, and my dad's there with his map, a big paper map, which I still like paper maps, but and he's explaining to my mum how to get to the shopping mall, and she's writing down, take the U2 to this station, and we did a demo on how to use Google Maps, but they didn't listen to the demo. And then she just WhatsApped me now just to say that they got served coffee by a robot in Berlin last night. So maybe that's how you get these old folks. If the robot serves a cup of tea, then all of a sudden that makes it okay.
Yeah, maybe that's the key. Just give them no choice, and
Yeah,
just burn all paper maps, and then they'll have to.
yeah.
Maybe that's the way forward.
No, yeah, you got to be careful saying stuff like that in Berlin, right? You know how what
Oh yeah, that's maybe. Well, I mean, to be fair, I was talking about Alan Turing and breaking the Enigma code in Berlin. So I think it's safe to say I overstepped that boundary already. So
you did, yeah. For me, burning a map is almost as bad as burning a book. I'm a map person. But so, what about some applications today? Because I think I love your demonstration because you did this in real time. You built a website, a video, Alan Turing reading text in multiple languages. Do people just need to jump in and try this stuff and see how it applies, or what do you think people should be doing today?
It's a tough one. I'll be honest about that. It's a tough one because yes, I am always preaching experimentation, play with it, experiment with it. But I'm not, having run businesses, I understand that that's an easy thing to say, a much harder thing to do, at least consistently. And that's what this stuff takes at the moment, like consistent experimentation all the time, because the floodgates are wide open now. I mean, you've got a new Gen AI or AI application coming out, not just every day anymore, but almost by the hour, if you look at what's going on. So there's no way to say, okay, I'm gonna just experiment with all of them. Even if you tried that, you would fail. It's hard for me, and I spend maybe 2 hours a day on that stuff when I can. So that I think is out the window, to just say like, yeah, you have to try and keep up, experiment with it. I think you need to have some kind of a goal in mind, in the same way that I set myself a challenge. You need to have a specific goal in mind, of accomplishing a task, and then asking yourself the question, could I accomplish this task using AI, and what would the implications be for my time and therefore my income and my operational structure and all that, if I could? Like, is there a way to do this through AI? And if the answer is yes, asking yourself the question, if this thing that I'm about to do, this task that I have in front of me, if I could do this in 80% of the time with AI, but it comes with a learning curve, is it worth doing? Mm-hmm. Okay, maybe the answer is no to that one. If I could save myself half of the time and half of the cost, but there is a learning curve, is it worth it? And then gradually evolving to, if I could save myself 80% of the time and 80% of the cost and get this done, is it worth it? And then at some point you reach that threshold where quite clearly you can feel that it becomes a no-brainer, like what I was showing there as well. And I think people need to first understand that that is what's happening right now. We've moved, because AI has been on a sort of a moving target for a long time. There's been talk about AI forever. And for the longest period of time, until I think about last year, it was more in that sort of 80-90% range, where you could say like, okay, I can save myself 20% of time if I use AI. And is that worth going through the effort for? And in most cases, because people are busy and all of that, and the learning curve is a frightening thing, the answer would be no. Now you're looking at realistically a reduction of 80% of time and 80% of cost. That makes it a no-brainer. So people have to do it. The challenge is, who's going to tell them how to? Because you need to, even though these tools individually are very easy to use, you still need to know which tool to use for which purpose and how to combine it with another tool that fulfills another part of the purpose. And that's the difficult part. And I hate to tell your viewers, I don't really have an answer for that. It's part of what I do, is to go out and help people make sense of that. But you need more than just one guy. That's not a solution. That's good for me, but that's not a solution for the industry. There needs to be something else to make that happen, because I don't think people are going to do it themselves.
Yeah. I was on a group call this morning, part of Octo, which I think you probably know is the standards, the industry standards group, talking about content. And I've got now got to email 10 people to get a time that we're going to meet every 2 weeks. And I know there's tools that do that. I've never used them, so I've got to decide now: do I go and learn how to use one of those tools? I assume it's a 2-minute learning curve, but it's going to save me 30 emails backwards and forwards with 10 people to find a time to meet. Same sort of thing, right? You got to learn and decide when to use the tool and when to stick with what you're doing. The other thing that I think people should be thinking about, and it reminds me, I do a workshop on how to choose your book in tech, and I recommend the first thing you do is kind of take all your, is just open yourself up to all the things that you haven't been doing because you couldn't, with the restraints of your current system, and kind of open yourself up and look at what you would like to do if there were no constraints. I think that's an important aspect as well. So maybe people would love to be creating a video 4 times a day, but they haven't really looked at that process because they know it's such a pain. So it's the things that can be done now because the tech's there to help you do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more this evolves in this year for sure, and then the next 2 years or so, in real time almost, the more you can almost safely now say, which is a statement I wouldn't have made until last year, that across the board of common tasks that are not of extreme complexity, you will be able, with a high degree of certainty, you will be able to save 50-60% of the cost in 50 or 60% of the time, which makes it really worthwhile, right? I mean, that's no-brainer territory, really, if you make that effort and investment. And so that's for everyone to decide whether or not just whether or not it's worth it, but whether or not you are willing to let your competitor gain that kind of edge on you, because they can. Like I showed it right there, right? I mean, I'm not a tourism activities kind of guy. I know the travel industry really well, fortunately, so I get it all. But there's no way anyone was going to beat me at what I just did there with that whole website and Alan. Like, no one's going to beat me. I'm TikTok ready in the span of 2 hours. I have Alan Turing talking for me, and I can spawn endless varieties of that in endless languages on demand. And you've seen it now. We just did it for the show in real time, and that's just the beginning, right? There are about 20 other tools on my belt that I haven't even had a chance to really show off. And I have leverage, enormous leverage. And so the question is, if you're sitting on the other side, let's say that you're my competitor, the question is, are you, not just do you want to leverage the same kind of tools, but are you okay with me having that kind of advantage over you? And I think the answer should be a resolute, absolutely no, right? And that's the way I think that's how important this is.
I also think from that video, I mean, none of us have seen Alan Turing maybe live, but I think some people would resist and say, oh, well, that was a generated video and it's not as good as a human. And I'd make your argument for you. I think, yes, it was generated. Yes, it's not as good as a human, but it's cool because no one's seen that yet. Maybe in a year, we're going to be sick of watching robots, or maybe in a year they'll look real. But I think you're going to generate more buzz from that than any human could because it's AI.
That, first of all, yes, the novelty factor, which is what people are looking for. I mean, that's what TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts are built on. So that for one. And yes, if everyone starts making the Allens of this world speak in the same kind of way, then that's going to wear off very quickly. That's what the other thing really comes in, that you need creativity, right? You need a creative mindset to come up with new things. If you're just going to copy and do the same thing as everyone else, if your response to me is to start making Einstein speak in the same way, just like different wording but same concept, then we both lose our edge really very quickly. So it's more about that creative muscle that people also have to flex and come up with new things. But what I can tell you is, while my Alan, if this were a real tour company, while my Alan magic will wear off very quickly, because people have seen that and they go like, yeah, Alan Turing, we get it. That was cool the first 5 times. That's evolving so quickly that I can, with creative thinking, I can come up with an endless range of other things that are becoming so much easier to do and so much more convincing. Like, for example, Midjourney just released, so Midjourney is that text to image generative AI. Midjourney is up to version 5 in the span of a year. That's ridiculous. Photoshop, that people probably knew, people know, I assume people know what Photoshop is. Photoshop went from version 1 to version 2 back in the day, and that took 18 months. And that was hardly an upgrade. There were a few new things. We've gone through 5 cycles of a brand new generative AI system in less than a year. It's absolutely staggering. And the realism of the new version is off the wall good. So, I mean, I saw someone generated a kind of a screen, sort of a scene from Blade Runner with Harrison Ford in it. And it was indistinguishable from reality. It really was. And so pretty soon I can make him speak too in his own voice, because that's happening in real time as well. And it will be completely 100% indiscernible from reality. And so then you can't come back to me and say, oh yeah, but that was a robot talking, because you won't know.
Right.
You just won't know. And then I'll be able to put him in all kinds of scenes. I can stick him in Berlin in front of the Brandenburg Gate, and you won't know that it's not real. I mean, you will know that it's not real because I can't afford Harrison Ford, but that sort of thing. So that defense that you hear, that and that's what it is, that defense mechanism of saying, oh, but it's only that, oh, it's not that good. That's purely a defense mechanism, right? That's not real, because this is getting better so fast that all of what you're throwing up as defense is being swept away in real time. So that's not a good idea.
I heard a lot of that defense when ChatGPT first came out. People were saying, "Oh, the text isn't as good." I think people quickly realized it is as good. It's human already, and it was kind of written by humans because that's what it trained on.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
On the subject of releases, so we're sitting here. It's March 16th. Yesterday, Google came out with their Palm, and nobody paid attention because GPT-4 came out. What are you seeing on GPT-4 now? What's the most exciting? Or Palm, Google's version. What's exciting about that?
Well, Palm is slightly different. Palm is a model for robotics, basically. That is more generalistic, so that you can use that model to have robots of various scopes and sizes and with various configurations do things without actually having to program them, which is in equal measures really impressive and totally frightening. So that's a whole different thing. Google Palm, people should look it up. That's more, that's more robotics and really deep tech kind of stuff. So GPT-4 is again a massive leap in my view. If you use it if you use it to spit out, SEO articles, I don't think you will get better results, yes, for sure, but it won't be that dramatic of an increase over GPT 3.5. Where this thing really is going to make an enormous impact is in the fact that it is so-called multimodal, right? And that's a big thing. That too has been coming for a while, but it has never really been done. Like GPT kind of text generation had been done before. It just wasn't as good. But a multimodal large language model that also can take images. That's what multimodal means for the people watching. Multimodal means you can insert multiple modalities, so also images. So you can give it an image and not just text, and that it completely understands not just what's in the image, but the relationship of items within the image and the context of those relationships. It can actually understand the image in a kind of human way, and that's the implications of that will become clear in the coming weeks and months. But that is I hate to use this buzzword, but it's true. It's an inflection point, like for medicine, not just for travel, for medicine, for every discipline. This is going to be massive. It's huge, and for travel as well. Like I can think of 1,000 apps to create with just that. It's extraordinary. Yeah,
I think on the demo, so I'm not sure if he's the CEO is Sam Altman, but the guy who gave the demo on GPT-4.
Yeah.
he did the napkin thing, right, where he drew a joke
Yeah.
website on a napkin, and he scanned it, and he created a website within, what did that take him, a minute to create the HTML for a full website. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so it becomes, I mean, you can think this through where this is going very quickly. Like it'll become even, not just even possible, but it will become on a coding level fairly trivial to create an app where you say, where I could take this a step further, my Alan Turing thing, and say, I can create an app where you just point your phone at any historic site that might have been involved in World War II, for example, and it will recognize exactly where you are. It will recognize what it's seeing in that picture. It will recognize the context of everything. It can tap into its large language model. It can generate on the fly a great, well-written story about what you've just pointed your camera at. Alan Turing will pop up in better quality than I've generated, and he will narrate what you just pointed your camera at. That is already possible, and that's about to become easy.
Right.
So, I mean, and that's just one of many things you can do. So the implications are huge.
Yeah, the thing I love about this stuff is, you know, you speak to somebody who's been using it, and it opens your eyes to the possibilities, and your brain starts going in all these directions, and you just go deeper and deeper, which is where you're at. You're deep in it now, which is great.
Oh yeah. I'm in the swamp now. I need to be pushed deeper in or rescued. I haven't really decided. One of the two.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend last week, and I was saying, actually, this is coming whether we like it or not. Are you better off not looking at this stuff at all and enjoying your last year or two of human to human before we're just all in this maze of, we don't know what's going on, but we'll see. But listen, I appreciate jumping on today. I love the demo at the start. Great seeing you at Arival last week. We should make this a regular thing. We should do sort of a monthly update or quarterly update or something. Or maybe a daily update, the way this thing's moving.
Yeah, it'll be a whole new ball game, even a month from now.
Yeah.
Because Microsoft just released Copilot, so now the way that you use the Microsoft tools is about to change completely. I mean, what just happened in the last year is mind blowing. I mean, it's just, it leaves me reeling, and I deal with this stuff every single day. It's extraordinary. I mean, even the people at these places like OpenAI are sort of out of breath. Even they can't keep up with this stuff. They go like, this is just too much. But that train is not going to stop anymore. So people, you know, it's a cliche, but you better get on board.
Yeah, I do watch a lot of interviews, and they all seem a little bit shocked about how the fastest, even the people that built it seem shocked.
Oh yeah, they are completely shocked by, they don't even know what it's capable of.
Yeah. Hey, if people want to reach out to you on this or other subject, what's the best way to find you?
Oh, LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. Find me under Marc Mekki, as it says, I think, in the background. LinkedIn is more pertinent than my website. So just go there, and I would love to meet you all.
Excellent. All right. Well, appreciate you joining, Marc, and hope to see you another episode soon.
Absolutely. That's a deal. All right. Thank you, Christian.